And to the big story of the day now, the South African economy has shrunk by 0.2% on quarter in the third quarter of 2023. This decline follows two consecutive quarters of economic expansion. We're now joined in studio by the CEO of the Black Business Council, Mr. Kganki Matabane. Mr. Matabane, thank you very much for your time this evening. We are seeing this news which has not come as a surprise, I'm sure, to you, because the drop in the third quarter was mainly attributed to persistent rotational load shedding, logistical constraints, as well as the challenging global environment. How did you receive this particular news? I'm sure it was not a surprise to you.
Good afternoon, Tolani, and the viewers of Newzroom Afrika, and then thank you very much for having us. We're actually very hopeful that we will see an increase for the third quarter, for the third quarter in succession. But unfortunately, what happened. I think our expectation was that in the next quarter, things were going to be bad because, as you may have seen, we are now back to higher levels of load shedding, like stage 4, 5, 6, and then that will impact not on the previous quarter, but on the quarter that is going to be coming. But our biggest challenge now is that if you look at the year-on-year, there's a 0.7% contraction, which means the economy is basically year-on-year contracted by almost 1%, which basically is not generally very good for the figures that are going to come at the end of the year, which basically tells us that we are likely to see maybe even a less than 1% increase in GDP, which for us as a country with this high unemployment, we actually need a 6% or more continuous growth for us to be able to deal with the challenges that we have as a country. So the economy, the way it's looking now, is not looking good. And when we look at some of the subsectors, for example, there was a negative 8.6% on imports, and then this it's been attributed to the fact that because of the high stages of load shedding in the past 2-3 quarters, people decided to then, in numbers, decided to buy solar equipment, and that then grew the economy. But you cannot depend on such things because those are things that are coming now and then. The economy should depend on important things that they can control. For example, like when you look at the mining, there's a decline in platinum mining, mainly because of the price of platinum, and you may have seen that a lot of platinum mines are basically saying we're looking at retrenching employees because there's no growth.
And when you talk about 6%, South Africa requiring a 6% annual GDP growth in order to put a dent on unemployment, is it something that is attainable in the current environment, do you believe?
Yes. When we look at a lot of research that has been done, we need a sustained 6% or more growth for us to be able to deal decisively with the high unemployment, for example, of 75% youth unemployment. And then when you look at the data that we have now, things are not necessarily looking good. So something needs to be done. We need to stop talking and start doing. Because as we always say, the big challenge in South Africa is that we talk a lot and do very little. And unfortunately, the talking is not going to grow the economy. What will grow the economy is the doing. We were very hopeful that we are basically doing something about the electricity and about Eskom in particular. But as you've seen now, things seems to be getting worse. We are not even anywhere closer to appointing a CEO at Eskom, which tells you that we've got a problem there. We also have a problem at Transnet. We've got acting CEO at Transnet. We don't know how long it's going to take. We hope it's going to take 1 year like it has taken to replace a CEO at Eskom. And then those are the factors, for example, that are not good for economy. We've mentioned again that at the DTIC, the department that is very, very key in economic development, we have not had a Director General for the past, almost the past 3 years. So those need someone to take decisions instead of always being on the podium and talking and promising.
Let's go back to the data itself a little bit, because there was a new trend, something that is a big worry, and that is when you look at the sectors that produce goods. They were the biggest drag when it comes to economic activity between the month of July and September. And we are talking here about the unexpected surprises when it comes to the decline in economic activity in the agriculture, forestry and fishing sectors, the mining and quarrying, and also the manufacturing sector. This does not bode well for a country that wants to grow. And the problems, as you say, are there, and we are talking more and acting less. What should be happening? You've spoken about the issues that are there, the CEO at Eskom not being appointed, the appointment of DGs moving at a snail's pace. In your view, as a business lobby group, what should be happening right now?
Yeah, well, as a country, we should basically take a decision that will support more the productive sectors. You are correct, Solani, that when you look at even the structure of the GDP figures, the finance is the biggest contributor, and we all know that that part of that sector of the economy is not necessarily productive economy. So we should take a decisive action to say, let's support those sectors that are productive, because those are the ones that are going to create a lot of work or jobs, because they are not too sophisticated like finance. And if you look at, for example, agriculture and mining, those will be affected by load shedding. Those will be affected by the inefficiencies at Transnet and the ports. Those will be affected by those things that we could have decided ourselves much earlier. But what is growing is the sophisticated economist side of things, and as we know, that requires highly skilled, highly educated people, and it's not going to absorb the people that we want to be absorbed. It's about absorbing people who could go anywhere else in the world and find jobs. But our problem is that we need to create jobs for people who cannot find jobs anywhere in the world, but who need to find them here. So we need to focus on supporting through access to funding, access to the market, and supporting those economies that are productive in nature.
Kganki Matabane is the CEO at the Black Business Council.